how to deal with coaches. It was so bad in 1976, Daryl Chase and I both, when we made the team, Al Henderson was the coach, and we immediately went to him and said, "You're not telling us a damn thing. You just stay over in the corner and leave us alone." That's how much faith we had in coaches back in those days. It was pretty rough. Al was kind of laughing about it. And he even said, "Well, no, I'm glad you said that. Tomorrow I'll be on the field. We got to practice." And neither one of us wanted to practice because we just made the team. We wanted a day or two off. So anyway, we got out there. The next day we grumbled and complained, and then we got out there and I said, "Daryl, I want to shoot your bow." And Daryl said, "I'll shoot your bow." That's how serious we wanted to take this practice session in the battalion. Well, anyway, we got up there and we shot one arrow, and Al says, "I'm done. You do whatever the hell you want now." And I go, "What? What?" And he says, "I was told by the Archery Association that I had to make you guys train." He says, "We accomplished that goal. Now do whatever you want." And we found out we really liked Al. Al was a good guy. Now, when we started the U.S. Archery Team program in 1981, there were 10 men and 10 women on the team. One of the questions we asked them is, "Do you have a personal coach?" One archer had a personal coach. Now, part of that was because of the dealings we've had over the years with coaches. You got to realize, when an archer's shooting, an archer wants to do the best they can. When a coach is demeaning them, telling them they need to do it this way, doing other things to them, even making recommendations that the archer already knows is not going to work, they get frustrated with that. So you pretty much lost your archer if you're not careful. It's not about the coach, it's about the archer. And what can you do for that archer to help them learn what it's all about deep inside themselves? It's not easy. You know, you got to realize these archers, we love to shoot. And we want to shoot good. Every single archer that walks up on that line, what do they want to do? They want to shoot a 10, but they want to do it constantly. And it's not easy. Trying to master our shots. When you're hearing one coach tell you to do one thing, you got another coach telling you to do another. Or then you got all these other peanut gallery people telling you how to do it. It gets very frustrating for the archer. And remember, the archer doesn't care about anything except for their performance. I was listening to Mike talking about the games and how many archers are joining the association because it's in the games. Well, guess what? There's not a single compound archer shooting in the games, and how many shoot compound archery? Tons. Why? Because they love it. They want to perfect that style, that is their passion. You got barrel shooters. They don't have a chance in the world to be in the Olympics, but yet they still shoot it because they have that passion. Now, how do you help that archer not only keep the passion, but how do you help them learn so much about themselves? We were discussing earlier about, what's the difference between the guy who won the gold medal and the guys that didn't, or the women. How did they do it? Well, it's all right here. Because if you think about it, the form was there. I would take out of about all those archers that shot at the Olympic Games. Did you go? Did you guys get to see the games? Did you get any chance to see the archery? I mean, it's a wonderful display of good shot execution. And it's also a great display of how much they can control their emotions or not. One of the most explosive archers out there was Shep Vanderberg. He was fun to watch because you never knew where the arrow was going to go. Even I knew so much myself years ago. Because, he'd shoot an arrow and he'd say, "Oh my gosh, it's going to miss." And it goes right in the middle. And there's other times he shot it, looked like a decent shot, and it didn't go there. So you never know what's going to happen with the archer because you don't know what's going on inside of their brain. Your job is to help them learn how to deal with that, how to work on their mental game. But before you get there, you've got to make sure that their form is consistent and their equipment is as good as they can possibly get. In the beginning, as you work with your kids, in my opinion, you don't have to worry too much about anything except for form. Form is everything. in the beginning. You have to learn how to teach these kids form. Positive reinforcement is so critical. Negative does not work, except for a very few amount of kids out there. Most of them need that positive reinforcement. Have you ever noticed most of the kids that start archery are kind of introverts? They're kind of quiet. Why is that? Because it's a sport that's within themselves. This sport draws a lot of introverts. I'm an introvert. I'm a strong introvert. I consider myself now an extroverted introvert. But that's all because of my archery. I learned to get out of my shell. I learned I had to talk to people. I'd rather not. No offense. But that's just me. When I sit there and I watch a lot of the archers, I watch these kids, I see a lot of insecurity. Your job is to help them come out of that shell. You don't try to just teach the archer how to shoot the bow. You help them become the person that you want them to be. Is it easy? No, it's not. I cringe every time I hear a coach make a sarcastic comment about one of their kids. That's not good for them. It really isn't. Yes, sometimes you get frustrated. You don't think they're not frustrated? You don't think they don't want to please you? I sat there and listened the other day. One of the coaches was talking to an archer and said, well, what did you think on that shot? They tried to guess what the coach wanted for the answer. Sorry. It's all right. But this is something that we all struggle with. You've got to get them to be almost like they have trust in you. Know that whatever you tell them is going to be right for them. If it's not, talk to them, figure it out. The more you communicate with your archers, man, the better they're going to be. This is not about if they win. I guarantee you it's about their overall life in the future. We brought up the point, how many Olympians? Have you ever thought about how many Olympians from the U.S. since 1972 there are? There's not very many because some are greedy and they keep making teams. So there's not very many. Think about that. We've got 21,000 members in the U.S. Archery Association right now. Of that group, there's going to be 6 that's going to make a team. The odds are not in your favor. However, you can develop that archer into one of the best people on the face of the earth if you work with them. And teach them some of the good things that they need to learn. Not just in archery. You know, you are not, you know, I heard comments about, you know, what's right and wrong, you can cheat. You know, you can fight for that point when you got a close arrow, and you know it's out, and you call it in, you tell them, call it in. Is that good for your conscience if you're a moral and ethical person? That's not good for them. So what you're trying to do is develop that whole person. And the more confident they are within themselves, the better they're going to shoot. They're going to strive to want to shoot better. Not for anybody. Remember, you got to get them to realize it's for them. It's not for anybody else. It's not for the parents. It's not for the coach. It's not for even the team. It's for that individual archer to try to excel and do the best they can. The one thing that always pounded into me, my dad kept saying, I don't care where you finish, just give it 100%. I don't want to see 99%. I want you to give it all you've got. Every tournament I went to, I always thought of that. I give it the best I got. Even if I was, I told at the first World Championships I shot in, I used to tell people, hey man, I'm 52nd in the world. And they're like, hey, that's cool. When we got beat by 90 points. Arrow is that far. But I shot silver. Why? I gave it 100%. That 100% gave me, I was competing against a Fed archer, who was, him and I were back and forth. And I just kept giving it as best I could, everything I had. And I ended up, it was so funny because after it was over, we went out to shake hands. You should have seen the look on his face. He was like, I can't believe it. He just wouldn't let go. And that's what you want. You just don't give up. No matter where you're at, you never give up. And how do you portray that with the kids? How do you get them how do you instill that into them? You talk to them and tell them what you're hoping that can happen. And try to encourage them to always give it their best. It's not about winning. Actually, winning isn't the medals. Winning is if you do it right and feel good about it. Because if you're trying to win the medal, think of all the forces that are against you. Mother Nature, the equipment could go wrong, the other archer could shoot totally out of it. You guys see the Korean men's team and how almost flawlessly they shot? Nobody was going to beat them that day. Nobody. But the men's team, the U.S., did their best and they did a great job. And so they won. And you could see the elation on their faces. They took a silver, but yet they won because they set their goals, their performance goals of what they wanted, and they did a heck of a job. And I don't know, I just look at it and I'm just tickled to death of how they perform under that type of pressure. The World Championships I've shot in, I medaled, I think, in six of them. Of those 6, I got three golds, by the way, and a couple silvers and a bronze. The bronze is the one I cherish the most because that's the one we had the biggest battle. 10 points separated the top 10 archers for almost 4 days. We got down to the end. About halfway through, I started to pull ahead, and then I shot a McKinney special, and against the blue, I shot a blue arrow, and down I went. And I did. I dropped down to like 6th place. And I had half of 30 meters to pick up those points. And I just kept plugging away. Remembering that, give it 100% no matter what. Give it all you got. And I did. At the end, I took 3rd place. The Finn archer beat Daryl Pace by 1 point. Daryl Pace beat me by 1 point. I tied a Russian and beat him on 10s. That poor Russian, I felt bad for him. He was 2 points out of the world title and got nothing. So, was it fun? Oh, damn. It was stressful. It was so exciting. But that's what, some archers live for that. We always say, try to stay calm or whatever. You got to realize sometimes archers need that type of stress. I fed off of the amount of stress that was on that shooting, knowing that I had to do the best I could, or at one moment in time I could use it all. But I never thought about losing. I just always gave it my best. And remember, you can never control that archer, that competitor, next to the archer you're helping. That's why you try to keep them focused on just shooting their shot. One of the things you'll also notice, you ever notice when these kids, when I say kids, it's anybody from 59 years and down. Anytime they shoot, you ever notice they pace themselves with their competitor? Most of them stay close. Even when you see the elimination rounds, you see somebody takes off and all of a sudden they got 4 points. All they got to do is shoot 3 more good arrows and they win. Oh no, they give it up and they give up. All of a sudden it's 4-4. Because they pace themselves. They don't stay focused in their own zone. You have to ignore what your competitor is doing because you got no control over that competitor. None. So what you're trying to do is encourage your archers to stay focused on their shot. And if they can stay focused on their shot, if they shoot 3 10s, the other person shoots 3 10s, hey, that's okay. Now do it again. Eventually, if you can stay with that 3 10s scenario, you're going to win. But if you don't, you just do the best you can. Now here's some of the things I believe that coaches are what they're good for. Now really, I have respect for coaches. In the beginning we did. Oh, I forgot to mention, I said there were 19 archers who didn't have coaches in 81. In 96, when I left the program, every archer got a coach. We brought them back together. We brought the coaches in. We got the coaches to understand what the archers wanted. The archers quit being so leery of the coaches. Because you got to realize, you sit there. I remember I was shooting the World Championship, getting ready, and one of the coaches came up to me and said, "So, you going to win this?" I'm looking at him. If I had a baseball bat, need a beer? No, I'm kidding. But what they could have asked is, can I get you anything? Is there anything you want to tell me? Should I say anything? Anything like that to help that archer is what you should be trying to do. I'll never forget one of the coaches. This archer was shooting in the finals at the World Indoor Championships, and the archer says, I don't want the coach in the box, I want the team manager. The coach goes to the team manager and says, if there's anything she has to tell me, I'll do it for you. Now that's a good coach. The coach understood, the archer was uncomfortable with the coach. I'm talking team coaches now. But anyway, the point is that that coach listened to the archer, let the team manager sit in the box with the archer. And if that archer needed anything, that archer would have told the manager would have whispered back to the coach, and the coach would have went to the ends of the earth to help that archer. And that's what a coach is all about. So, my definition of a coach is a tool. You are a tool. And if you use it right, you can help that archer. And you'll be out of the toolbox more often than be in the toolbox. The other thing is, since you're a tool, you should not consider yourself a crutch. Unfortunately, I get so many coaches who try to help the archer so much that they become the crutch. If the archer shoots back, what's the first thing they do? They turn around and look at the coach. Really? They can't figure it out on their own? Now, whose fault is that?
Coaches.
Coach should be teaching that archer how to be independent. How can they work with that archer? And get that archer to start using their brain. You know the interesting part about that? You all saw the Olympics, like you said. Did you notice when Brady and Jake shot against each other, the coaches were not in the box? And they both shot really well. And then when Brady and who was
Zach.
They shot, the coaches were not in the box. You know, both of those times Brady shot just phenomenal. And the next round he had a coach in the box. And I believe he's too dependent on his coach. I'll never forget when Sherry Rhodes was my coach during my successful years. And I fired my dad. And I got into it after 76 games. And he was always around, and he also knew that he created too much pressure. And it was probably me, because I figured he expected so much from me. And so I tried too hard. And so I get fired. And what he did was he'd show up at the event and hide somewhere. And I didn't care. As long as he was out of my sight, I was fine, because I wanted to focus on the tournament. I wanted to focus on my shot. You can't do that sometimes when you're a coach.
You're fine, Jack.
You're always trying to figure out what they want, or you're trying to please them. And it gets really tough. One of the compliments I gave Kevin Pickagami a compliment last year at Wayland. When Wayland won the Nationals, Kevin wasn't even there. But Wayland did. To me, that's a coach. That person taught this kid how to shoot and what to expect, and when he got to the tournament, he didn't need the coach. Because all the work was done. If you do your job right, the coach shouldn't have to be there. Now with Sherry, what I noticed with her a lot of times was we went to the World Junior Championships. I was the coach, she was like the assistant coach. And we had 4 kids that we were in charge of. And Denise Parker, Vic Wonderly, and Mark Hainline, and Jay O'Donnell were the team members. So Sherry and I split up the thing. I said, Sherry, you watch the women first distance, and I'll watch the guys, and then they'll switch halfway through. Well, I'm sitting there, at a distance with the guys. If they needed anything, they would come and talk to me. And then I see Sherry reading a book. I'm freaking out. Why aren't you watching the girls? What's going on? She says, I think they never been part of it. And I'm just like, this is really bugging. And anyway, one of the girls started going to a problem. Sherry was up like that. She was right there, Never said a word. The archer came to her. When the archer talked to Sherry, Sherry told him, oh, think about this or whatever, and all of a sudden the archer picked it up and started going again. I got a lot to learn about coaches. Now, you got to realize Sherry had been the ASU archer coach for 17 years. She's won more collegiate national titles. They still haven't even come close to what she's won over the years. But anyway, with her, what I did, just to give you an idea, whenever I moved out to Arizona, Sherry became my coach. I started shooting some of the big events, and I'd shoot an arrow, and I'd turn around and look at it and say, well, what the hell happened? Like, I was expecting her to give me all the answers. I just literally wanted her as my crutch. And I realized that's not the way to do it. Now, today, most of you, have you guys been to like the Nationals? You've all been to the Arizona Cup, right? Have you seen those coaches? I call them the hover coaches. They're like the helicopter coaches, and they hover over the kids. And they don't give the kids the chance to breathe. I don't think that's not very healthy. And I'll use the example of the Olympics again. Woojin Kim, the kid that just shot 700 points, his coach was in the box when he got eliminated. Same coach that was in the box when the other crew archer won the gold medal. Now what happened? Why wasn't that coach able to help Woojin Kim? See, to me, I just look at it going, you know, you've got to get these archers to learn how to think on their own. If you get them, I'm not saying you shouldn't be there. You should always be available. But don't hover too much. Make them learn to be independent. You know, I've struggled over the years because I just didn't understand why anybody expects a coach to win it for them. The coach can give you advice, they can give you encouragement, they can support you, but you still have to shoot the arrow. And nobody can do that but that archer. What you as a coach can do is inspire them and get them to learn how to focus internally so they can execute their shots. You know, Bob says, well, look, what happened to some of these archers at the games? It's simple. Right here. It's all mental. At that point of the game, one of the Russian archers, world champion back in '87, he said there's 3 parts of archery. You got form, you got equipment, and you got mental. It's a chain. And each link is important. And you're only as good as the weakest link. So no matter how strong your form is, or how good your equipment is, if your mental game is not good, it doesn't matter. You're not going to win. Just the way it works. Or say your mental's really good, but you have arrows that aren't hitting where they're supposed to, like maybe the veins are flying off or something like that. You know, that's equipment. The weakest link is only as good as you can be. So you have to make sure all 3 are at optimum. To me, a coach is a mentor, not a tormentor. There was a coach, one of the archers I started working with years ago, and the archer said, yeah, my last coach, they sat there behind me and they just bugged the archer to death, just freaked him out. And that is not what you're looking for. And I know some of you want to inspire them, and you got to find ways to do that. But remember, it's up to that archer of how far they want to go. You know, there is no such thing as an Olympic champion is born. An Olympic champion is developed. And how you develop that person will get them on the right track. If not, I don't care how good they are. As a matter of fact, the more natural the archer is, the lazier they are. Because it comes so natural. And then when they run into a problem, what happens? They don't know how to fix it. Somebody said Michael Jordan took 1 million shots before he got good. I believe it. Archers, let me tell you, you shoot a lot of arrows. I didn't realize how much until I quit shooting a lot of arrows. Then I tried to pick it up again, and go, holy crap, this is hard. And a lot of that's because it was just such a passion with me. I wanted to shoot my bow and arrow. A coach should always lead by example. You should always be as professional as you possibly can. If you don't, you remember those kids are watching you. They're watching you like a hawk. And whatever you do, if you start saying certain things and they'll start believing that's the way they should be. You're an incredible inspiration to these kids. And what you do and how you do it has an effect on them. So always try to be at your best. One thing I heard something earlier about, the guy that pulled the arrow off the ground and said he had a pass through. We had an archer do that to us at the Nationals one year. Actually, he missed the target. He was behind the target, and he said, I got a pass through. And we're looking at the target and trying to find the 3 cuts in the area, and we couldn't find it. Then where his arrow was, we knew he missed the target. It was like 20 yards behind the target. No pass through ever goes 20 yards. It was a big hole in the middle of the bailiff. And anyway, he was able to convince the judge that he had an eye. And we let him have it. But he lived in hell for the rest of the term. We gave him all kinds of grief. And, so the other side of that is, teaching sportsmanship, honesty, that is an important part of the game. I think it's, to me, winning is not everything. You win by how you carry yourself. Sure, give it all your best. And be, I know an archer here in the valley that, you guys know her, Judy Adams. You ever heard of Judy Adams? Man, what a tiger. She was ferocious when she shot. She was not a friend. She was friendly to anybody, and she shot. And she told me the other day, she said, I was just focused. She had her claws out all day long. But, and I guess what I'm trying to say there is you can be that way, but, it doesn't really help you. Be yourself as much as you can. You don't want to change your personality, but you have to keep it in check of your surroundings. Be aware of the other people that you're shooting with. You don't have to give them anything, but you sure don't want to create, adversity like that. I believe that you give it your best. If somebody treats you poorly, well, there's always ways to treat them poorly. But normally, you should be able to just shoot your best, say, hey, nice shooting, and move on, and let them be whoever they want to be. But you got to focus on your game. Now, some archers and some coaches will encourage their archers to be the bad guy. Bring it on. Actually, you should look for that and let the kids deal with it. Because every time they have to battle with something that's so frustrating, it's going to make them stronger. I used to tell people, I can shoot thousands of tens and never learn a thing. I can shoot 1-4 and learn a lot. Bad shots are good educational tools. So are your competitors who are difficult to deal with. You've got to be able to face that. And you work with the archer and try to talk them through it. But say, hey, deal with it. And say, here's how you're going to deal with it. Help them through it, but don't hover them. I think it's funny. Sometimes coaches are worse than parents. Sometimes parents want to be their best friends. Some coaches want to be best friends. Well, no, you gotta be real with them and help them through some of the difficulties they're going to have. But I'm telling you, if you help them work through the complications they're going to run into. Justin Hewish won the '96 Olympic Games. 2 years before that, he had target panic so bad he couldn't hit the target. Now, how is that possible? His coach took him, said, we're going to the JOAD program. He was young enough to shoot JOAD archery. And said, we're going to stay in there for a while. And brought him brought him to the level that he was more comfortable with, and he worked his way back up. And all of a sudden, 2 years later, he's an Olympic gold medal winner. Now that's good coaching. Other things that a coach should do. Teach him how to score. I tell you, it's mind-boggling to me, these kids that add their scorecards and don't really add their scorecards. They just throw in numbers. And you're sitting there going, you know, what's going on? Teach them how to score. Get them ready for a tournament. Anything and everything that might happen, they should be prepared for. Also teach them how to use the tablet. If we've got tablets here, I don't know if clubs are available, able to use anything like that, but you should find ways to teach the kids how to use that tablet. Anything that they may have to experience, you want them to experience before it actually happens. It freaks kids out when the first time all of a sudden says, you're going to keep score. And all of a sudden they don't know what to do. They freak out. Really? Something that simple? Get them to keep score. Get them how to, teach them how to add. If they can't add, make sure they got a little calculator they can quickly add. Somehow get them to where they're comfortable with that type of an environment, so nothing bothers them when they're actually in the competition. Communication is a very, very critical thing. Sometimes I know you think you're explaining something to the kids and they should understand, they may not get it. You ever had that experience where you've been trying to help one of the kids and say, hey, you need to do this, you need to do this, you need to do this, constantly. Then somebody else walks up and says the same things. Oh, thank you. Turn around and look at you. How come you never told me that? That's communication. And that happens all the time. So when you do try to help the archer and you can't figure out how to communicate, then get somebody else to say virtually the same thing. They may say it just a little differently, and get it. Don't be afraid of other coaches. Matter of fact, one thing I used to tell archers when we were together a lot and we talked about coaches, I said, Jay Bars was the best archer who sucked information out of every single coach he could. Dick Tone was his coach. But Jay constantly badgered Sherry, Don Rapskin, myself, I don't know who else, anybody and everybody out there, he was getting information. Then he talked to Dick about it. Say, what do you think? And Dick said, well, no, that's not going to work. And Jay said, well, wait a minute, you're shooting 1350s. Well, I haven't figured that out yet. The point is that it's good to get information, and then this way, make sure, talk to your archers and say, hey, listen to anybody, but then let's talk about it. Because this way, even you as the coach may not have thought of that type of instance, whatever it is. I'm not saying it's good. Some of it's going to be as much garbage as you can believe out there, but on the other hand, every piece of information is important. To me, I believe it's all about all of your mistakes that you make builds a better archer. So you have to be able to encourage that archer to explore and talk about it. Again, there should be no hidden secrets, so to speak, out there. I don't think there is a secret in archery. Y'all think there might be, but there isn't. I like to tell the kids, they say, well, I just don't understand this. I said, there's not a single thing that you've done wrong that I haven't done 10 times as much. I've made more mistakes than Quakers got oats. So communicate with the archer, and don't tell the archer not to listen to other people. Tell them to listen, but then bring the information back and discuss it. Because you never know, it might be that one little key that unlocks a door that you have not been able to unlock. And then the archer jumps up to the next level. We go in I call them levels. You be shooting, you see this climb, you climb, all of a sudden they hit, and they stay constant. You go, man, I'm not changing a bit. What's happening? And all of a sudden they do something just the way it works, and they jump up to the next level. This just, I mean, it's not a nice, slow, gradual, incremental climb. And sometimes it's a 50-point improvement. And you go, oh, how'd that happen? Hey, it's all about keep working, keep working. Teaching the archers to be independent, you got to get them to think for themselves. So you can talk with them, but again, let them think things through. Try to figure it out. If you do, you're going to make a more comfortable and solid archer. Positive reaffirmation, and it also, another thing is their self-esteem. All of this positive stuff, I mean, I can't pound it to you guys enough to make sure that, give them the positive feedback that they're looking for. John Wooten was just an incredible basketball coach, but he really was more than just a basketball coach. He was a coach of human life. He taught these kids how to respect people and how to improve themselves. The neat thing about him is if an athlete was doing something wrong, he said, well, I like this about you, but we need to work on this. He didn't say, oh, that's terrible. You need to do better than that. Kind of thing. These kids are crushing. Give them the positive information that they need. Always try to find a way to tell them something good before you have to break the news that they need to work on something else. It does help the blow, but it also encourages them saying, hey, I got something going on. I was in one of the early years, we used to do high-speed filming with the archers, and I bring the coaches into a room, and we show the high-speed film. The first time we did it, it was so funny. Those coaches spotted at least 100 different things that the archer was doing wrong. And they were just talking, oh man, that's horrible. Wow. They just went on and on and on about the archer. And I finally said, I am so glad that archer's not here with us in 10 minutes. You have not said one good thing about this archer. Now think about it. I know we're trying to improve the performance, and I know you're focusing on an area that's weak, and you're trying to help it. Give them positive feedback. Man, that bow arm is great. But we still need to work on that follow-through. Or we need to work on this. Get that elbow where you want. Those positives, if you apply that correctly, it will still keep their self-esteem, their confidence level. One of the things that we deal with a lot, you see archers, they show up as a new coach. Oh, I can rebuild this archer. So they tear them down and you want to start building back up. Think about it. They got all this confidence in shooting the way they were. Now you took away all that form, started rebuilding. You think they have any confidence left? You destroyed their self-esteem. It's going to take years to figure out who they really are. How do you work on something like that? You do it slowly, gradually. You can change their mind. Guys, these kids are not going to be Olympic champions in a year or two. It's going to take years. Do you have the patience to work with them for that period of time? Because it's going to take anywhere from 6 to 10 years to get them the way they should be. And it's not going to be easy. But the one thing we do know about archers, they are self-motivated. They're also overachievers. Most archers you ever talk to are usually pretty intelligent in more ways than one. It's really remarkable. That's why we're a bunch of geeks out there shooting. Yeah, right, Adam. Adam and I went to ASU together. He's an engineering degree. I'm a PE major. Now, another thing you want to work on is video yourself while you're coaching the archers. You don't have to do it all the time, but video yourself. Learn what you're saying. You think you're saying it right, but if you get a video of yourself, you look, did I really say that? Oh, this is bad. This is what you need to learn. Teach yourself. Find out. And don't be afraid to listen to other coaches talking, as long as those other coaches are okay with it. I started to work with the Sail Vista archers because they're close. And I want Mike and Gary to listen to what I'm saying to the kids. I want them to hear what I'm saying. I also want to hear what they're saying. So we can keep that flow going, consistency. We don't want to confuse the archer. But also, I want them to, if I say something differently, that they can filter and figure out, okay, what's he saying, why is he saying it, how can I express this, whether it's right or wrong. The whole point is, as we're trying to become a team, and I'm not a good team player. it's a little hard for me. But anyway, the point is don't be afraid to work as a team and share that knowledge with each other. Because remember that the ultimate goal here is to help that archer, no matter what it takes. Now tell me something. Let's say you're working with an archer, and you've gotten to the point the archer wants to leave you and go to somebody else. How are you going to deal with that? You're going to say, yeah, fine, get out of my face. Or are you going to say, hey, anything you need, I'll be there to help you. You ever realize that sometimes when the grass may be greener, they think, they move on, then you find out it may not. Don't burn the bridge. When you burn that bridge, they won't have nowhere to go. On the other hand, maybe they've got as much information as they can out of you. They hired my dad. I got all the information I could out of that. I'm not saying he was stupid, I'm just saying that I outgrew that. I got to the point where I needed more. And I got lucky because Sherry had a lot more to offer. A lot more.
Rick, that's you getting fired, or the coach getting fired. What about the coach firing the archer?
That's one thing that's really good. You got to realize that certain personalities just don't work. And you have to recognize that. If the archer or the coach decides it's not going to work, first of all, you should be looking for somebody to take your place. You shouldn't just leave them. Try to find somebody that is more compatible. A lot of you are people, coaches. I don't know many of you as far as how you coach. I do know some of you I wouldn't give you 10 cents for to coach me. Just because it's our personality, it's just who we are. Well, yes, Kevin, you're one of them. Actually, Kevin and I have really good discussions. Sometimes I don't agree with him, and I know he doesn't agree with me. But that's good. That's healthy. You guys should always be talking. Trying to find ways to the first thing you're going to learn when you talk to the coaches, there is more than one way. It's pretty remarkable. I always laugh because there's some of our system is trying to develop an archer into a particular style and technique. Have you ever noticed that every time you see a new Olympic gold medal winner or world champion, they're different than the last one? You know what was even funnier? The guy who took silver, Baladon, the French guy, you see that weird contraption that came up? He drew the string way down here and came up. Did you know John Williams used that very same technique in 1972? You know what? It works. It works pretty good. Look, take that silver. But the point is that the different techniques, what you're trying to do, really, more than anything, is keep them close within reason. Has anybody seen Michaela Frangina's shoe? Ever seen that? Would you teach that? Oh, hell no. I lose her friends every time I see it. That guy won more individual world titles. He won world indoor, world field, world target. And he's got a gold medal on the team. He's got 3 Olympic medals, bronze, silver, and gold on the team rounds. This guy's won just so much, it's amazing. And he's got the most God awful form. And he just scares him to death, and yet it works so well for his sport. Why? Because that's what works for the county. Nobody else could do it. Daryl Pace and I, when we shot our best, we were so awesome. I mean, we were entirely awesome. And I used to use that as the example. You know, he says potato, I say potato, whatever it is. You know, we were so different, and yet we both were achieving similar results. And better than we'll know. But other than that, the other things that we shot, I mean, we butted heads so many times in competition. You know, in 6 world championships, only one person wins. 6 world championships. One person. And that was one. And we were so opposite. What does that mean? All that means is you need to find what works best for that archer. You stay within certain parameters, certain linear, angular positioning, but you still try to let them develop into their technique that gives them the most consistency. I'll never forget the day I learned how to shoot another 10. I was just up there shooting and I felt just the way I wanted it when I shot. And I said, oh, that's what I want. So, I mean, it was a 10, it was great. But what was more exciting for me is how it felt. And I kept striving for that same feel. And the more I got that feel, the more consistent I became. Of course, whenever you shoot in a tournament, that might change. But that's where you learn how to deal with another game. Okay, are we about ready to start on the tournaments? That was just my pre-warm-up. No, I'm not even halfway done on the first page. Anyway, this is okay. Preparing for the tournaments is one thing you can do when the kids are practicing. Try to put them in uncomfortable shooting positions. One of our kids at the sale is left-handed, so my suggestion is make sure she shoots next to every one of the archers. Every day, shoot with somebody different. Makes them uncomfortable. The left-handed archer is the most comfortable archer on the shooting line because they're used to facing the archers. The right-handed archers are very uncomfortable with somebody staring at them because they're not used to it. So, one thing that I suggest if you have a left-handed archer, start utilizing them. And that archer is okay with that because they need to be with different personalities and different reactions from the other archers that they have to do. But utilize that if you possibly can. When it's raining, you guys practice?
Yeah.
Better. You try out the new rain gear before a tournament or during the tournament? I feel so bad sometimes. I'm sitting there in my chair, it's raining, I see this newbie get out there and he put on the rain gear, and I said, oh God, that looks new. We get about everything between them and the bow. Well, they learn that one fast. That's important. You know what Judy Adams did before she went to the Olympic trials in 1980? It's desert. There's no rain here, hardly at all. She gets in her tub, turns on the shower, and shoots with her rain gear. She wants to make sure that she's able to shoot in that rain gear. I had my tripod, hooked my hose on it, taped it up, turned that baby on, and walked right under it and started shooting. You don't get much training in practice here. But you need to find ways. Did I look like an idiot? I'm sure a lot of neighbors thought I was barely losing it. But you don't care. Again, it's what you do, whatever it takes to be prepared for that tournament. You guys practice at different times of the day. You realize the sun changes. Anybody who shoots when it's bright, and all of a sudden the sun goes down, you should start moving to the left. And all of that is just a pupil dilation that's happening, which changes your string line. But you won't know that unless you try it. You know, some of the best world records that are shot. It's usually an overcast day with a little bit of drizzle. The lighting's perfect. The drizzle gives them an idea of what the wind's doing. And these guys shoot incredible scores in that type of weather. A partly cloudy day is like, it is so hard because, you know, the cloud, if the sun gets behind the clouds, are you going to go that? How much? You have to be prepared for that. Do you teach your kids how to adjust their sight when they shoot an arrow, say like in the blue ring? You know how many moves they need to make to be able to get it into the goal? Do you practice any of that? Have them shoot. Say, okay, you got your arrows going in the middle. Okay, turn one complete turn to see where the arrow hits. You need to practice this before you're at the turn. The more they practice those type of situations, the more prepared they are. Page 1. Now you guys are, you know, I'm sure you practice head-to-head competitions, right? You know, I personally feel USA Archery is doing a disservice for archers because they don't do what Arizona is doing. Our state championships is determined on a head-to-head basis, which is what the World Championships do and the Olympics. We still have the old style total aggregate score. That don't mean nothing anymore. Nothing. The head-to-head is everything. So when you're practicing, really, if you can, get the kids to shoot head-to-head all the time. Mix it up. Even compound and archer or recurves, you can have some way, come up with a device that you can have them shoot head-to-head. That's all you got. Intermix, but you still got to get used to the pressure that they feel on a head-to-head match, which is totally different than aggregate score. You get your kids say, okay, what I want you to do before you shoot an arrow is I want you to run down to the target, come back, pick up your bow, and start shooting. You ever been caught where you had to go to the bathroom really fast? We actually had, at one event that we were at, we had Montezuma's Revenge was really bad, and they even had equipment failure for rear, so you could run. But you have to be prepared for something like that. So I remember one archer who left their quiver somewhere, and they had to go run and get it. Then they had to run back and hurry up and get everything off, and then they tried to shoot, trying to calm down. But Sherry was working with those archers, and they already had practiced that. They were ready for it. And no, Sherry didn't hide the quiver. Another thing you can do is aiming off. Some archers are really have a hard time aiming off. Get them to aim off. Teach them. Say, hey, I want you to aim on the edge of the gold red, or aim on the red blue. Whether it be high, low, right, left, doesn't matter. They need to learn to aim off. Some archers, man, they just have a hard time. You see them moving their sights so much, and you're going to forget where you're supposed to put that thing when the wind dies. So it's always good to teach them to practice this. You know, there were some tournaments I used to shoot where I wore gloves. I had those little brown, chewy dollar gloves, you know, the cotton ones. But man, it kept my hands warm. We used to shoot in pretty inclement weather. We shot one of the collegiate championships we shot in sleet and headwind about 15, 20 mile an hour, cold as the dickens, and I had my gloves on. And I was breaking collegiate records, shooting really good scores. Why? Because I practiced with those gloves. I was ready for any kind of inclement weather that I could possibly conceive. So these are little things that you can teach the kids how to do. Practice with each different scenario. In other words, you're going to have a lot of homework. Write down all the things you can that possibly could go wrong. Because I can guarantee you, during their lifetime, it will go wrong. And if they're prepared, you're ready for it. Now the next thing we should go over is the mental game. The mental game is one of the hardest things to learn. You know why? Nobody practices. Everybody shoots. Everybody works on their equipment. Nobody practices mental. I don't say nobody, but I'd say a vast majority, and then most of them who do practice it do not understand it. They don't put in the time that's required. One of the reasons I got involved in the mental game is because I realized that if I couldn't figure this out, I was not going to do good at all. I went to the Olympic Games and I was nothing but a true basket case. I mean, I couldn't hardly breathe on my first shot. I was so upset, so nervous, I just didn't know what to do. My legs turned to jelly. And I could hardly pull the bow back. I was so nervous. I've never experienced that in my entire life. You know, it took me over a minute to shoot my first arrow. I didn't even know if I was going to shoot an arrow in the Olympics. I thought I was going to fall over dead any minute. And I realized that this is not me. But it was truly me. I was a very emotional, passionate kid that didn't understand anything about the mental game. So I went on my trek and I started learning as much as I could about the mental game. One of the things you can learn is the relaxation techniques. It's not easy to learn relaxation. Most of the time when you start practicing it, you're going to fall asleep, kids. But that's a start. You know, what they find is the more relaxed you are, the more clear things are in your inner mind. You ever, just before you were getting ready to go to sleep, and all of a sudden you come up with a great idea? That's because your mind's relaxed. And all of a sudden it's, that's what I need. Whatever it may be. These things are really important. It takes time, but eventually what you can do, the 83 World Championship when I shot, Daryl and I got down to the wire. I mean, we were battling back and forth. And the one thing I was doing was trying to stay relaxed. I did the breathing technique of inhale, and I call that breathe, and then when I exhale, it was relax. And then boom, I was relaxed. I could relax within 2 seconds. Sure, far cry from my first Olympic Games, let me tell you. And that was because I practiced it. Now, you can get books on that. Another thing you can do, you know, ASU, U of A, they've got these sports psychologists, these sport people who are learning all types of mental programs. Take advantage of them. They're dying to work with anybody and everybody. And if you can find them, do it. Denise Parker, most of you know her. She was just an amazing sensation back in the day. And she shot, we were shooting and she was okay. Then we sat down and they said, okay, we're going to visualize an apple. And this apple is a red apple. And when you bite into it, you should feel the juices almost like flowing in your mouth because you're seeing that apple and it's going to taste really good. And then you turn it around. You know, Denise Parker couldn't see any of it. Not a single thing. So the people we were working with here at ASU, they hooked her up with a group up in Salt Lake City at, I think it was University of Utah or one of the schools up there. And then Denise Parker started learning everything. And I do mean everything. Not only could she visualize, she could relax, she had an incredible mental focus. But all that was taught. And these things are so important. Don't think you can do it all. Al Henderson was great in the mental game and form. Never worked on equipment. He always sent him to Dick Thomas. Dick was great on the equipment side. But they're working. They work together. And there's nothing wrong with that. If you, in my opinion, you should find somebody with the mental side and start teaching them as quickly as possible. The more they work on the mental game, the better they're going to become. And this is hard. It's not easy to practice mental. There's the visualization. You know how to visualize, as I was just talking about? How do you teach focus? Focusing is like, you realize that we have we call it a flapper valve in our brain. You focus and all of a sudden you go, I wonder what's for lunch. And then back to focus. Or you go, I wonder where so-and-so's at. Back into it. You realize the archers have to struggle with that while they're full throttle. The thought process cannot stay focused long enough. Most of the time it's only 2 or 3 seconds tops. Now they have to learn how to get their focus more stronger, so to speak. I'll use the example of Darryl Hayes. One time we were shooting national championships. After 90 meters I shot, I was like 20 points ahead of the guy. Yeah, I got the guy. Well, Darryl's sitting in his chair, and we're all getting ready to go to lunch. And somebody says, "You going, Darryl?" I said, "No." He's looking at the target. And then anyway, we come back. We go to lunch. We come back, and Darryl is not slouched in his chair. He's standing up, sitting up straight, and just glaring at the target. And I said, "Oh man, this is not good for Rick." He proceeded to kick my butt. That's the visualization and the focus. He got himself back on track. So those kinds of things you can learn, and the archer will benefit so well. Again, the positive reinforcement. You always try to stay positive. Don't be fake. Be positive, though. You know, I always tell people, they drop their bow arm. What do you say? Don't drop your bow arm? Come on, give me a break. That's the first thing they're going to do is drop their bow arm, because you told them not to. Try to get them to say, hey, you need to keep that bow arm up. That's not hard to do. Something that simple. Your words are very powerful. And you got to make sure you stay positive as best you can. When you set goals with your archer, personally, I don't like score goals because it's all determined on the weather. It's really hard to do. However, you should have an ultimate, hey, your whatever score these days are, 600, let's say. And so you say, this is the ultimate score you would like to get. Your weather permitting, this is what you're capable of shooting. However, how do you get there? How do you teach those kids to get there? They focus on specific shot processes. Performance goals are important. So teach them how to say, one of the things you do when you shoot is you kind of tweak your bow hand when you shoot. Focus on keeping that bow hand straight. And then you try to get them to do numbers. You're not going to do it straight every time. So you figure out how many times you do it, and then say, okay, let's do less next time. Taking baby steps really helps. Now, I'm kind of a weird guy when it comes to tournaments. I really believe a lot of kids should learn at the local club shoots. You guys should be having inter-club competitions as much as often as possible. Get them that feeling of competition. Just trying for a score doesn't really, it's not the same. Go head to head with each other in your club. And that really helps teach them and get that feeling. They're supposed to have jittery. You don't realize it. You got to realize that these archers, we thrive off the pressure. It makes us nervous. It kind of upsets us. But on the other hand, we still love it. I mean, we really want that competition. We want that stress. We want to learn how to control that stress under the most horrible situations, like in the Olympic Games, one more arrow to shoot to win a gold medal or not. Jay Bars had that last arrow he shot had to be a good shot, or he was not going to win. And he did. And he pulled it off. How did he do it? He used his mental imagery. He said, I just transported myself back to ASU where I practiced all the time. Can I imagine myself there? Now, when he was at ASU practicing, he imagined himself at the games. See, when I practiced, I always imagined who my head-to-head guy was. And I had him right next to me. And I imagined I'd stand there and shoot an arrow, and then he had to shoot the arrow. And I always try to imagine that. Janet Dykeman used to use she came up with a little spin dial thing, and she had a percentage of how many 10s, 9s, 8s, 7s, whatever, on this dial. And she'd say, well, what did my competitor shoot this time? Holy crap, it's a 10. So I got to shoot a 10. So it created that pressure that they need to get used to. All this stuff is, these are, you got to be creative. And I'm telling you, these kids, you already know who has a passion for it. Those who keep wanting to shoot. Say, hey, time to get the homework done. Or, hey, do some chores. I don't know if you guys used to use that word or not. But these things, the kids really thrive, they want to shoot. There's nothing wrong with that. My mom and dad used to use a form of punishment for my archery. How do they do it? Well, you don't get to shoot unless you do this or that. And I do this or that real fast. So I can shoot. I mean, I couldn't get enough to shoot. So anyway, you're at the club shoots. In other words, trying to get that inner competition going. Then you go to that local level. In my opinion, I don't understand why you guys don't have team competitions within your club or with your clubs. Have the sale, hey, American Archery, or let's get together, we're going to have a little competition. Or whatever club. Get together. Get those kids out of that competition feeling so they get used to it. Also, it'll help you practice to understand how to talk to the kids while they're under that pressure. All of these things are stepping stones to me. The state championships is your next level. Make sure they go if you can. But really, they should get the experience in the club level first. And then inter clubs, to me, is important. I'm not real strong on getting those kids out to the USAT events until they're really ready. Now, I think they're ready only if they're shooting specific scores that can be competitive. I think they can learn so much more at the local area first. You know how hard it is for a kid? They go to a USAT event and they find out there's 1,000 kids that are better than them. I wonder how that feels on their mental. Not so good. I didn't shoot a whole lot of big events until, Dad used to say, Rick, it doesn't look like you've got what it takes, so we're going to have to find other ways to help you. And yeah, I used to hear that stuff. You wouldn't believe this stuff. And it's not just me. I mean, I'm probably expressing what most parents and coaches say without even thinking they're saying. You know, my dad told me, he said, Rick, you're not the brightest kid on the block, so we're going to have to keep this simple. And he's probably right. I didn't really want to hear it, but the good thing about that, I've always kept my equipment very simple. There's very few times that I've ever had equipment failure because I kept my equipment simple, and it worked. So you can always turn a negative into a positive if you work at it. So anyway, I recommend that you start, truthfully, you clubs, you got enough clubs here, you guys can have a ball. You can have a blast competing against each other. Even have little club championships with other clubs so you can, give those kids that experience that they need. As they grow and then they get to the level they can shoot state championship like it's nothing, then they can go on to the other things, like USAT events, and then to the national championships. If you started too soon, you could, they got a fragile mind, really. And it's up to you to be able to help strengthen that without destroying it. Is it important for you for the kids to be on the dream team or be an RA? In my opinion, I don't think it is. I think you can do them, within your area. I mean, it's okay, but realize when you do that, are you ready for the consequences? There's a lot of change that goes on within those RAs and that dream team. You lose the control, which isn't a bad thing. I remember to the Olympic championships in '76. She was the world champion in '77. He also coached Lynette Edwards Johnson. She made the 1980 Olympic team. He was coaching Jake Kaminsky. A lot of people don't know this. And then Jake and him talked about going to the RA program. And they reached an agreement that it would be good for them. You gotta let go if that happens. Not easy. But you can do it without. I had one mother tell me she figured out how much it would cost her to do the same thing that the RAs do. It would cost her $100,000 a year. I said, well, that eliminates a lot of virtues, doesn't it? I don't agree with that. I don't agree with it at all. Matter of fact, I don't think some archers should be there. Not because they're not capable, but they can do so much better. Sometimes you fall into a trap that grass is greener on the other side. It may not be. Personally, I think it's important to work with your archer, help them grow and develop, not only in their form and technique, but in the mental game, and also all around good person, so to speak. Okay, page 3. How do you put it all together? You are a team, you and your archer. And you should sit down and talk to them. Here's what we should do. Or, what can you afford to do? You can't, some kids can't afford to go to a lot of the tournaments. So you got to figure out which are the best ones that they can benefit the most. Is it the national championships or is it something else? Is it the first USAT event? If you ever go to a USAT event, I don't understand why you just don't go to the Arizona area. It's right there. It's in your backyard. And it's a good experience. But other than that, the two state championships, California's got all kinds of tournaments. I go to those quite often. I don't think they're forward thinking like we are. They still shoot the feeder, but you still get good experience. You go to a local tournament that they have, it might be 150 archers, 300 archers might show up. They got so many archers, it's just mind-boggling. And they got more hover parents than I've ever seen. I've never seen so many, it's just amazing to me. But it's good experience. You take your kids over there and you see how they act and how are they going to be able to deal with that. At the Nationals, there's parents out there that accuse the other kids of cheating or other things that just really blows your mind. You got to get your kids ready for that to be able to deal with it. You can't protect them always. You got to be able to find ways for them to experience this as best way possible so they can learn how to deal with it. Now, once you shoot, or you're helping your archer shoot a tournament, what do you do after? Do you ever debrief? First thing I ever did when I worked with archers, when they shot a tournament, is immediately after, I'd grab them to the side and say, let's talk about the tournament. Sometimes they don't want to talk about it. That's okay. But let them vent. Let them air what they think. Also, you discuss with them what you saw. It's important for you to do debrief. I can't, you know what I used to do? I would, this is a computer program that I had on the Apple II, by the way. This is my information on the tournament. And I study, try to figure out what I did right, what I did wrong. Now today, you can do this on a little, your phone. It's so cool compared to what I did. And I was studying where my arrow impacts were. I knew exactly, every single arrow that I shot, I knew exactly, like my first arrow versus my second versus my third. Also my first 3 arrows versus my last 3 arrows. I knew which quadrant they were at, whether it be right, left, high, low, or upper right, upper left. lower left, lower right, it didn't matter. I wanted to know exactly where they were, when it happened, where it happened, so I knew everything about Rick that day. I studied, I spent more time studying shooting than anything else because I wanted to know what I did. So I was prepared for the next one. I could tell you which end I was going to drop points. I could tell you where they were going to go. And guess what that did for me? I was able to re-plan or restructure my thought process for that particular arrow or that particular end. It was amazing. And that's why I kept getting higher and higher scores. When I was shooting, back in the day when I was shooting the 1340s, most of the archers could barely break 1300. Why was that? Because I knew where I was. And you can work with your archers about that. Studying. I can tell you right now on the, you've got to know everything about yourself. And you can help those archers learn that. You start analyzing, you quit worrying about the competition, you start thinking about you. You start building this almost impenetrable shell around you, focusing on, well, I know what I need to do here. And you get up there and you shoot, yeah, the wind changed a little bit, I know exactly where to aim. You get all this analysis and you do so much with it. Eventually what will happen is you fall into the zone. When an archer falls into the zone, you know what happens? Everything goes into slow motion, except for you. You can pick out things, it's amazing what you can see and what you can feel. And you can make corrections before it even happens. You know exactly what you need to do and how to do it. That's practice. That's studying. That's all these things put together. So, then after all of that, then you plan your next event with your archer. So, okay, what do we need to do? What adjustments do we need to make? And then you start working on it. And to me, I don't believe there is such a thing as an end point. Yes, we all want to make the Olympics. We all want to be the Olympic champion. But if you set that as the ultimate goal, you know what will happen? You're going to freak out because that's the last step. You don't want that last step. You want to be better than that. So really, when you're shooting the Olympic Games, you're getting prepared for the next event, whether it be World Championships or the National Championships. The funniest comment I ever heard was when Jay Bars won his gold medal. You know what he told me? We had a seminar at the Arizona Cup when foreign archers were here. And one of the archers asked him, he said, so Jay, you won the gold medal at the Olympics. What would you like to do? He said, I'd like to win the state championships. I was beating him so bad at the state level. But see, he had the next stage, whether it be state, national, whatever, he kept moving forward. You don't have an end point. It's infinity, folks. You're always struggling to better yourself. The archers should struggle to better themselves. Always try. So what makes it, to me, an Olympian's not born, they're made. And here's what it takes. Love the sport. They got a heart. They got a drive that is just beyond anything you've ever seen. Their determination is just phenomenal. They've got a passion. They've got a will. Their strength comes from inside. And there is no such thing as sacrifice. None. When I hear an archer say they sacrifice, I know immediately they're not going to be as good as they want. I went to, when I was telling you about the World Junior Championship, we flew from the U.S. to Norway. We go off the plane, we go check in to the hotel, and I asked the kids, what do you want to do? Nick says, I want to shoot. And I'm like, are you crazy? I just flew whatever, however long it was. He said, no, I want to shoot. I said, okay, let's go. He was the only one who wanted to shoot. He won the World Junior, but you guys know his history. He's silver medal winner, bronze Olympic medal winner, and he's done so many things, his accomplishments. And that's the drive he And I'll be honest, I was very selfish in my shop. I even told Sherry when we first got together, I told her, now remember, you're the coach, I'm the archer. Don't forget that. And I did. I always thought, the house that we live in, it took us 1.5 years to find it. Why? I wanted 70 meters to shoot the backyard. I didn't care about what the house looked like. Bedroom, home, no garage. I didn't care. I just needed 70 meters really to shoot. I wanted long distance so I could train. I can't impress enough on you is how to encourage these kids to do what they need to do. Another thing, one of my final things I'm going to tell you, which is so critical, don't change their attitude. Try to encourage them. Sometimes they're different. Well, guess what? Every world champion and Olympic gold medal I've ever met are different. You can either accept that or turn them into sheep, and then they can be losers. That's the hardest thing that I've always watched. I've seen these kids that some coaches just hate it that their attitude needs to be corrected. You just have to find a way to help them to deal with the weirdos around them. Because that's basically what it is. Though these champions stand out. They're different. There's a reason they're different. If you want to be a champion, stay yourself. It's so critical. Or, you're slow like me, so you're different and don't even know it. So again, your job is to help that archer grow in every way, not only in archery, but in life. And you can do so much for them. You are the key to help them grow in more ways than one. Questions?
So I have how the Olympics,
Before you start, I'm very hard of hearing, so you're going to have to almost yell out.
I say, how,
Pretend like I got earplugs.
how many Olympics did you go to? 4. Okay, so you won the national title 9 times. What was the difference between winning the national title and the world title? Why did they
3 times. They just got it wrong. Daryl and I, we talked about the World Championships versus the Olympics. We felt the World Championships was more important to us as archers, but to the rest of the world, the Olympics is everything. They were here, hey, you're a gold medal winner. It's just because it was like on a team, and they didn't even participate, but they get a gold medal. The track and field runners, they get a gold medal on their team for the relay thing. If they run one of the heats, and you go, is that right? But it's, to me, the nationals, it's weird. And I'm trying to explain this, but it's hard because I competed against one of the greatest archers to ever shoot. Daryl Pace is, you got to look at his record. The guy, I don't know if you all know him or not, but the guy has done so much. He set the standards. We were told a few years back that the only reason Daryl and I won is because we didn't have any competition. And my thinking was, man, what an insult. But on the other hand, he was right. Because we were the competition. We set the standards. We elevated people to the next level. And the nationals, Daryl and I butted heads. And you got to realize, from 1972 to 1992, there was only one archer who won the nationals other than Daryl. Maybe a little. 17 years, I'm sorry. At that period of time, only one guy won other than Daryl. Because we just butted heads every time. And part of the reason, I've always believed you need a competitor similar to you who motivates you try to, you try to beat them. Or, if you slip, they're going to beat you. And so Daryl was my nemesis, my biggest pain in the career. But, he was the guy who kept me motivated. I knew if I slipped, he'd get me. And I kept chasing him, trying to beat him. And with that, elevated us to that next level. The World Championships was always an important part for us because, number one, the World Championships is held every 2 years. Number two, the 4 best archers of each nation showed up and they competed. Usually it was 100 countries or more who would show up. So you had a pretty big following there. It was a huge event. The Olympics, only the top 64 get to go, and really, they're not even the top 64 because you had how many teams? 8, 12, 16 teams qualified, and they don't even have to be the best archers. So you take away those numbers; those are put into that pool of 64. So there's probably 30, 36 archers who are the best, but it's not as many. And the reason I say that because you go to a world championship, you got a lot of good archers. If you go to a national championship, you even have more good archers. You ever seen the Korean scores at the national championships? Oh, they'll blow you away. I mean, it's just like, their number 25 archer is as good as the best we've got. Number 25. We got 20. They got 24 archers above us. We used to say, thank goodness they can only send 3 to the Olympics. So yes, those each one I looked at was important, but I've been pretty proud of my world titles. There's another thing that of those 3 world titles, 2 of them were settled by a total of 1 point. I mean, that's how close it was. I mean, Daryl and I battled, and it was fun. I mean, like I said, we fed off of that. We wanted that. We didn't like it sometimes. I roomed with an archer, just to give you an idea what kind of stress level some people try to deal with it. I wake up in the morning and all I hear is this retching going on. This guy's throwing up because he's so nervous about the tournament. I'm thinking, it's just a Olympic festival. It's not even as important as the nationals or whatever. It was just a fun shoot, so to speak, but he was so nervous. But that's what got it work. But, I guess what I'm saying is that each event is important, but use it as a stepping stone. One thing I learned over the years, like I said, that there is no end point, I learned that the hard way. When I won my first world title, I got so depressed because I thought I achieved what I wanted to do. I mean, I reached the pinnacle of everything I wanted to accomplish. In less than 4 hours, I was so massively depressed after winning the world title. How the hell can you be depressed? But I was, because I just didn't know what to do. I was lost. I was truly a ship without a rudder. It was because I didn't think things through, didn't plan appropriately. What I did after that was say, the light came on, and it said, I need to enjoy this and shoot the best I can, no matter what. Just go out there and shoot the best and learn more about shooting. And I did. And it's funny because that world championship when I won was 6 months after the Olympics. Probably one of the most depressing moments because I finished 4th. I was supposed to take 2nd behind Daryl. And but I didn't even do that because I wanted to beat Daryl so bad that I wanted it all or nothing, and I got nothing. 6 months later, my goal was to beat the 3 guys that beat me at the games, and I achieved that goal. I won the gold at the world, and man, it was, like I said, it was tough. But on the other hand, what I did was reflect, readjust, and then my scores skyrocketed to a higher level because of that. I don't know if I answered your question. I just threw everything on the wall.
Okay, another question for you. When did you know that, you were saying, like the Koreans have this really strict style, everybody kind of does that and nothing. And you were saying that we should kind of let them, if they've got a style that's working. Well, what age do you know their style is working and you don't?
Consistency.
Yeah.
Yeah, if they can stand there and shoot an arrow, and then they do another shot, but very similar, and it starts grooving really well, that's all you're looking for is that groove. And you need to clean some things. Really, truthfully, no, not that much yet. You got to shoot. Truthfully, I was telling one of the kids the other day they were shooting, and they needed to do something to correct what they were doing, and they did it. I said, good. Now do another 10,000 shots like that, and we can talk again. And that's truly what happens. You've got to shoot a lot of arrows. You don't have to shoot them in one day. Trust me, you don't want to. But you do shoot a lot, and you spend, I used to spend a minimum of 2 hours solid training. When I say solid training, I had 12 arrows in my quiver minimum, and I shoot all 12 and go down and score and then come back and shoot them again. The reason I was doing 12 is because I wanted to develop my endurance. Best way to develop endurance, shoot beyond what you're supposed to be doing. So start feeling that burn. When you lift weights, you start getting that burn. That's when it's really working. That's what I was doing with my shooting. I can feel the burn. It's, oh yeah, I'm loving this. This is happening. I'm getting stronger. And it helps. But yes, you have to use good judgment on your style. If it's way out, you've got to think about, is this good for this archer? However, do you really want to change it? Judy Adams used to shoot, I don't know if you ever saw, her elbow used to be literally like this. Very hyperextended. She was our best archer for years. Now, who in their right mind would want to change that? She was winning. She took second and third at the world championships in 79. And I hear the thing is, oh, but she could have won if she changed the form. Oh, hell, would you take that risk? Tell me something. Are you willing, see, you're willing to risk, your archers, are you willing to risk yourself? Would you do the same thing to you? That's the problem that I run into when I see a lot of coaches out there changing the archer's form. Not a big loss to the coach. The archer quits, moves on, they pick up another archer. That's not good. Your goal is to help that archer in any way possible, shape, or form. And to me, I hate to see any archer quit. I don't care if they're just a low-level shooter and then probably never get very good. If they're having fun, help them have fun. Encourage them a way to enjoy their shooting. Again, like I said, it's 0.004%, I think is what it is, for an archer to make the Olympics in the United States. So 330 million people. It's only going to be 83 million. Anybody recording that? I want to make sure the girls get that.
It's right here.
Rick, I've got a question for you, or ask your opinion on it. What do you think we need to do as coaches in our country to help the women elevate themselves to a Olympic-style challenge?
Well, we need to quit coaching them like we do the men. I mean, women are different. We're not saying in a negative way. Women are so much smarter, and they're stronger in many ways. Truthfully, I mean, you look at the women's Korean team, they're so much better than the men. Do you realize that the women Korean, the Olympic record at 70 meters was higher on the women's side than the men's side for years? That's how much better the women can be. Now, the problem that we run into today, the men's scores are getting higher. Well, they're shooting the same distance constantly. They're able to shoot stronger poundage. Their techniques have gotten so much better. And they learned off the Korean women. However, the process is different. And we don't have, the last good coach we had was Sherry, and she came up with that fast track to help the women. And unfortunately,
Not me. I wasn't there.
This is BM before mine. But it is a challenge. And see, the Archer, they made a good step last year when they finally separated the women to where Guy Kruger was going to take over and do it. Maybe not the greatest choice, but the only choice they had at the moment. Now, this is coming up. They're going to be looking. Hopefully they find somebody. Who knows? It could be a Korean female. It could be, truthfully, I hope it is a female. Because they understand what women need more than what guys need. Guys, we don't win. We really don't. When it comes to women. I'll be honest with you. I mean, I don't know how share works, operates. I just let her do it because it's just safe.
Did you say let her do it?
Oh, I'll delete that.
The whole point is you've got to find someone who's willing to do the commitment that's required, and then give them that free ability to work with the Army the way they feel is necessary. You know, when before Lee came into our program, we've had other good coaches there, but they were restricted by the board. Again, DM. But the coaches couldn't do a tenth of what Lee has been able to do. And I think a lot of that is because, number one, he's paid a lot of money. Number two, he's a former coach. And they just let him run. And hopefully, the board is more educated and more logical in their choices and choose a good archer or a good coach. I think it can happen. I really see a lot of potential in our women. We have more cadet female archers than I mean, it's exciting times. For someone like me, I've been in this sport for over 50 years, and I've watched what it was, what it has been, and what it's becoming. And right now what I see is so much positive influence. These you coaches are helping the dreams come true with a lot of archers. But you also have their life in your hands, in a way, generally speaking. You can guide them the right way or you can hurt them. And I hate to put the pressure on you, but you really do have a lot. Do you realize that a lot of kids, when they get out of school, they always remember one or two teachers who had that one moment of influence? Mine was a PE teacher. So I became a PE. No, the way he taught discipline and his attitude was so positive. Man, I've never forgotten that. And so, and I think you guys probably had a teacher you remember that had some form of impact on your life, whether it be positive or negative. You're taking on a big challenge. And please remember, it's about the archer, not you. That's the hardest thing I've seen. Al Henderson, to me, he's the epitome of the perfect coach. He had over 200 archers, and you never could tell who he was coaching, except for their attitude was always positive, upbeat. 200 archers, and it was just amazing. I could go down the line and tell you who was coaching who normally, because they all had. I always call it coaches coached in their own image, and it's because that's the only way to do it. What's that?
That's not what you really call it.
The point is that they would. That's the only way they know how. You have to be versatile. You have to understand what's best for that archer instead of for you, or you think is the only way to be. It's not easy. It is not easy at all. But it can be done. I mean, I sat there and watched it. Sherry's the other coach that I've seen. She used to take kids at ASU. They'd show up, could hardly shoot 1,000 points. And that's 4 years' time. Now, it's not a solid 4 years. Realize it's from September to May. And only twice a week she'd get them. Once individual coaching for a half hour. The other was the team ranking round that we shot on Wednesdays. It's the only time she saw these archers. And in that 4-year period, most of them could break 1250 by the time she was done. And why? Because she understood. You don't change their form. You improve the form, what they've got, but also you help with their attitude. Any other questions? Yes?
I know, this is kind of an internal debate between us coaches. We've got one archer in our club, put her in a one arrow shoot off, piss her off, motivate her, she gets in the tournament where it's tight, and she will always be on the ass. She will always be on the ass. We've got another one, much better shooter, consistently performs better. He gets in that tight situation, he'll shoot off. So it's that great center pressure, that ability to perform in high stress. Is that something inherent in the archer, or something that can be coached?
No, that's the beginning. That's the beginning. Trust me. That was worse than that. You realize, just to give, did you guys hear the question? Because, did you hear it? Would you repeat it? So.
Say, we've got one archer in our club. You put her in a high stress situation, turbines on the line, one arrow shoot off, she will always nail an X. We've got another one, consistently better shooter. He gets in that same high stress situation, he'll shank a 5. So my question
We're
is,
gonna take a
that
5-minute
ability to
break
perform under
first,
stress
and then
inherent in the
you
archer,
would go all
or
the way
something
back.
that can be
Go ahead.
coached?
So it'll be you, Steve, me, boom.
It can be coached.
Sounds good. We'll take a break first.
Even better yet,
This is
Steve
going on
Ron,
an hour.
who's not doing it.
Yeah, I know. I knew he would.
You know, they choke,
Yes,
so
it
to
was.
speak. That's good.
Took my understanding.
They're learning. They're learning, understanding what's going on. It's frustrating, trust me, it's
And I'm
got
gonna
to
quit
be the most
because between
frustrating.
you
They're
and
probably a
Rick,
very passionate
you already put my
person,
presentation.
and it just, it happens. So, what
have a
you
little
do,
bit. Yeah, just go through it. It's a good
eventually
presentation.
you'll get
I
past
don't
it.
know.
Do you realize that in 1973, I tried out for the world team, and Darrell Case and I were battling to who was going to be the fourth archer to get to go to the world championships. I shot a 6 on my last arrow. And so Darrell gets to go to France, and I get to stay home and cry over turd got me again. And then in 70, what was it? In 79, we were in the same situation, but at the World Championships. And we were tied, and with 3 arrows to go, and I shot better. I shot 2 8s instead of 6. And Darrell beat me by 3 points. But then in 83, we were tied, and we ended up tied. Each time, I felt like each one of those past failures were the building block, the foundation I needed to be stronger the next time it happened in that situation. So I don't see that as a bad thing. It's just something you work with to help them understand, okay, man, keep working. Al Henderson in 76 kept telling me, he said, Rick, you're going to have your day. Keep working at it. Keep working. And I just didn't understand. That's the hardest part, to get your kids to grasp that, see, they think tomorrow is the end of the world. They want it now. We all do. But it's patience. You know, the old thing, take the pebble from my hand and grasshopper. It's the patience that you learn. And eventually, he will grasp, he or she will grasp this of understanding how to do it. Right now, my guess is that they're thinking about it. They're stressing out, saying, possibilities. And you got to stay in the moment, And in order to learn that, though, you've got to be able to teach them to deal with that type of pressure by imagining it. The visualization is an extremely powerful tool. I highly recommend you guys to really study visualization if you can, and help pass that on to the kids. Do you realize that he wants me to stop? Can you believe that? You realize that in imagining something is 10 times more powerful than the actual experience. Just imagining. That's why visualization is so critical. If you can, the funny thing is, to see what he should be practicing is imagining that at night. And okay, this is the one arrow sudden death shoot off, and see himself shooting that over and over again. So when it does go into the real world, you go, oh, I've done that 1,000 times. I've done it. I did that at one world championship. The Aerobase had me by 12 points going into the last day. And normally, you will never pick up 12 points in arrow at 15, 30 meters. Ever. That's the way I thought. Well, I did my visualization. I sat there and saw myself shoot 3 arrows, 3 10s. And I walked up to the line. I said, 3 10s. I mean, I picked up all 12 of those points that day because of visualization techniques. So you can do this by learning. And it won't come overnight. It's one of those baby steps. But eventually you can break that barrier and all of a sudden it's nothing to a problem. But yes, the hardest one is the one who doesn't good math. I need to tell you that because what happens if you're not careful is it's so easy that when they do stumble, they don't know, they fall into a tailspin. They don't have to get out. They just don't. One of the kids we shot with for years made teams, shot well, took third at the World Championships in '79, and all of a sudden in '81 he got into a problem. His comment, you guys are so lucky. You understand what happens when you do something wrong. He says, I don't, I've never experienced it. He finished 64th place there. It was devastating. He was done. Because he didn't understand the mistakes that are so important to learn, to build yourself into a stronger athlete. Okay, Mike, sorry.